The album's gonna drop April 14th, and then they go like right on tour, and they head straight to Europe for the first leg of their tour.
You want to know what else too is awesome, and also like if you please, I think that'd be a great idea. That'd be so much fun if you came over to Glendale and we all saw Metallica together. That'd be so awesome.
Oh, dude, it'd be nuts.
That'd be nuts. But another cool thing is this show is brought to you by Blackened, which is their whiskey. Oh my god, I actually love it. I actually love their whiskey. It's really good.
I haven't had it.
Okay, well, do yourself a favor and try it. I really want to try their cigars too.
No, I haven't had that, but I did have the Enter Night Pilsner, which is the one that they made with.
How was that? How was that for a Pilsner? Was it actually like a?
It was good. And I was like, yeah,
that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Well, to Metallica, man, I love that band so much.
Ride the lightning.
Did you know that over $5 trillion exchanges hands on a daily basis? That's an average of over $220 billion an hour. Now, how does this much money move every single day, and why does it move the way it does? Here on Drunkenomics, two bartenders who also happen to be students at the University of Nebraska Graduate School of Business are going to sit down and drink to the global economy and try and translate it into English. So sit back, relax, pour yourself a stiff one, and have a drink with us to the comedy that is the global economy. And welcome back to yet another presentation of Drunkenomics. This is the drinking podcast with an economics problem. So glad you all could join us. Hopefully you have a nice stiff one in front of you, unless, of course, you're about to drive somewhere. And once again, by the power vested in the VIX for whatever reason that is still keeping it the reason, I am your less gracious host, which would make me... what was my name again? Aaron Wong.
Aaron Wong, yeah, I think that's still who you are.
Yeah, unfortunately, which then, of course, makes you, what was that again?
That makes me more graceful and, of course, James Goldwater. So, unfortunately, they have started going hand in hand, and I'm not sure I care for it, but we'll make do.
Yeah, I mean, we do every week. I mean, at least we try to. I try to. I don't know. But yeah, dude, happy Metallica Day also, in case you're paying attention to the preamble. Gosh, I'm like, it makes me so happy. I don't even care what's going on in the economy over it. Metallica's going on tour. It makes me so happy.
Oh, yeah. They're touring. They kick off their tour next year in, they dropped their new album in April. They set off on tour in, I think, May. So it's like, all right, got that to look forward to.
Unfortunately, the Unforgiven brand of Ticketmaster, oh my gosh, they still exist. We still have to get our tickets through Ticketmaster, which is one of the most unfortunate realities. And we meant to talk about this earlier, but there is that investigation by, was it the SEC or was it the...
Ticketmaster, well, they faced historically issues with the FTC.
Yeah. So are they the ones doing the antitrust investigation?
Department of Justice generally handles antitrust stuff.
Oh, okay.
The FTC can block if they think that whatever's about to happen is gonna create a monopoly. It's Department of Justice that investigates once a monopoly's already been created. So it all depends on that. But yeah, no, as all of you, as some of you may or may not recall, apparently Taylor Swift is a musician who, no, I'm kidding. I know she is, who who was releasing tickets, and her tour just showed how it was Ticketmaster merged with Live Nation, and you just see how disastrous that was for pricing. I think I saw a ticket that was selling for $34,000 just because they had Ticketmaster was out of control.
Well, in other words, if you had bought a ticket before, like on pre-sale or whatever it was, and you still held the ticket, and all this demand, the secondary market comes in, that would have been the best trade of the year for you. Honestly, that would have been better that would have made up for all your Bitcoin losses and everything.
Maybe. Depends on when you bought.
Yeah, it depends, But yeah, like Ticketmaster has always sucked, in my opinion. I mean, there's videos of, like, I remember Pearl Jam, like the members of Pearl Jam, which also is another band that I love very much. But the members of Pearl Jam, I think, is Stone Gossard and Jeff Ament, testified to Congress talking about the perils of Ticketmaster and why this organization sucks and why the economy doesn't need it, which I'm in total agreement with.
Absolutely. Well, right, let's put it this way. In 2019, they controlled 80% of primary ticket sales.
Yeah.
80. That's a monopoly at that point.
Yeah, and then, of course, the merge. Yeah, so, like, I mean, think about, like, what happened with Standard Oil when they controlled 90% of, and this is back in, like, the early 1900s, when Standard Oil controlled, 90% of all oil transportation in the U.S.,
yeah.
So, scale that down 10% or scale it down whatever percent. And then here we have Ticketmaster. So in order for you to get a ticket to an event, whether it's a football game, a concert, whatever it is, like odds are you have to go through Ticketmaster. And I think, yeah, that raises the question, are they a monopoly? Was the merger with Live Nation? Because at one point it was, yeah, exactly. At one point it was, you go through Live Nation or Ticketmaster. And of course, there's smaller companies too. But at one point, yeah, which, dead honest with you, they all suck.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
They started as these great ideas where they were going to provide this service where like you could buy a ticket to a venue that you aren't near, and that that, or that you would and they would mail it to you, or that you would get like a thing on your phone so you didn't have to print a ticket or go to the box office ever.
Yeah, but you had to, like, I remember like when this first, like not when it first became a thing, but I've always been a big avid concert. I love concerts. And I remember like going to the venue to buy a ticket, like actually driving up and going to the box, I'm sure you know that feeling too. And you say, hey, what seats are available? How's the sight from this seat to the stage? How's the sight from this seat to the stage?
Yeah, and generally the person in the box office knows because they actually work at the venue.
Yeah, they know the arena pretty well. They know the stadium pretty well, right? And then, of course, I remember one time I called, I was trying to buy tickets to some concert, and I called the venue, and I was like, I'm trying to buy tickets to, I think it was Whiskey Myers. I was like, I'm trying to buy tickets to Whiskey Myers. How come, like, can I just drive up and buy it? And they're like, no, you have to go through Ticketmaster. And I was like, why? Like, why?
Why can't I? Why can't I come down to the box office and get a ticket?
Like, exactly. And I was like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And and what's this $40 convenience fee per ticket? I remember buying $15 tickets. Yeah, I remember buying $15 tickets to like an underground punk show once, and it cost me $55 to buy one ticket because of a $40 convenience fee for a $15 ticket.
Yeah, so it's absolutely out of control. Yeah. It's not okay. It's
and like I said, it's all the companies: Vivid Seats, AXS, SeatGeek, StubHub. Yeah, they all suck. Yeah. I don't know what service they're providing. I don't know their economic benefits.
I hate them.
I don't know why we now all have to go through them all of a sudden.
Well, it's because they work with, so Live Nation Entertainment, the way it all ended up shaking out is that they ended up controlling huge blocks of tickets initially. And so you have the venues where it's like, essentially they would say is, hey, if you want a tour to come through your venue, you have to use us as your ticket provider, as your ticketing agent.
That is so stupid.
Oh yeah. Like my response is, let's put it this way. To go to Metallica, unless something changes, I'm going to have to buy the tickets through Ticketmaster. And I hate that. But I want to go. Me too. And that's the definition of a monopoly, is I can't go anywhere else. I have to do business with them.
Yeah, I can't. I won't be able to find the tickets.
I don't know what tickets are going to cost, but I know they're going to be expensive. And they're going to be like, oh yeah, and you get to pay $40 convenience fee on top of it per ticket. Yeah. I'm like, which I would understand if they were like, oh yeah, it's a $40 convenience fee per transaction.
Yeah,
I get
that makes sense.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah,
I'm getting all my tickets in one spot to the show, blah, blah, blah. But they go, oh yeah, per ticket. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How much effort does this actually cost you to process 3 or 2 instead of 1? It doesn't cost 300%.
If they email me 6 tickets versus emailing me 4 tickets, why'd I have to pay an extra $80 for 6 tickets? Why? Yeah, it makes no sense. But it's, like I said, it's all of them. They all charge $40, which I really feel like if for some reason they make it through the antitrust investigation or whatever it is, there needs to be some sort of investigation on collusion, because there's no way they all just charge $40.
They all charge the same amount and do exactly the same thing. No one's undercutting.
No one's like, why? And why wouldn't you? Like, if you're like, I think SeatGeek is one of the newer ones on the scene. It's like, why wouldn't you do like a $25 convenience fee just to be like, come here instead of Ticketmaster? Why wouldn't you, man? Make a name for yourself.
Yeah, make me happy.
yeah. Like, I'd be much happier shopping at SeatGeek if that was the case. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd still, at the end of the day, wouldn't be very happy in general. I still much rather just go straight to the venue and not have to worry about a convenience fee. I was very happy doing that, talking to the person at the box office, whomever they were great. They were always great. But this is the freaking world we live in now. Anyways, sorry, I get a little bit heated about that. And just because I like concerts so much. I love rock and roll so much. And of course, I should probably get time to throw this in there. Thoughts and views that I express on this presentation do not reflect the thoughts and views of my employers. I need to start doing that every single episode. Yeah, and this is not financial advice.
Maybe we just add it into the intro and we go with there. But
that's probably a better idea. I'm too lazy though. Maybe one day I'll get around to it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. What else is there to talk about?
China's closed. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I know. It's so weird because like as soon as remember like when President Xi first reclaimed like the power that he wanted to have.
Oh yeah,
initially
when he got his third term in office and had Hu Jintao removed from the meeting and everyone's like, okay, this guy's got a pretty solid grip on everything except the economy because he doesn't know how that works.
He's a real harvester of sorrow with that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Hey. Once more there are COVID outbreaks again. China has the zero COVID policy. So if there are COVID outbreaks, cities go into lockdown, regions go into lockdown, buildings go into lockdown because they don't want it spreading. And that has led to a few problems. Yeah. People don't care for that one bit.
No, they don't. Well, it's so weird because like one of the things he talked about was not. I don't know if he actually actively talked about it, but he was saying like, okay, well, I need to start like relaxing COVID restrictions a little bit. Mm-hmm. Which I think there was a rally in Chinese ETFs when this happened.
Yeah, they had agreed to relax certain aspects of their COVID restrictions. They got to a point where they were like 24-hour only on certain things, and it's like, all right, well, maybe this is a good call.
Yeah, but that only ended up being the thing that should not be, and
it wasn't great.
That was Metallica reference, but. And then he retracted that pretty quickly, and the next thing you know, COVID numbers start shooting up. What was the last COVID numbers that you saw?
It was 46,000 new cases. I think it was something like 46,000 new cases in the last day, which is not insubstantial. And so he put places back into lockdown. And one of the issues is that out in Western China, I wish I could.
Was it Guangzhou or?
It was west of. I was something with a U.
I don't know Chinese geography.
Urumqi, Urumqi, which is the capital of the far western Xinjiang region. There was a fire in a residential building that killed 10 people.
Oh, wow.
And then the people there said, look, COVID lockdown was a factor in the fire and in the deaths. And so...
Gosh, that's so weird. Because, like, you'd think, and, like, you look at places like Guangzhou, which if you're in Guangzhou and you have, like, that, they give you a color code if you're tested positive for COVID or something like that.
Or been near someone who did.
Exactly. So it's like, what's the distinction there? Like, if you were in my hallway, if I was in the hallway at the same time, like, was I close to you?
Yeah, or is it or if I'm on the third floor and you're on the fourth floor, we're walking through the same hallway at the same pace, does it count that as the same as contact? Right, despite we're not in the same area.
So do I get yellow carded as well, or whatever it is? So it's so weird, like how they distinguish that. But if you get yellow carded, or I don't even know, like what the
I think it's just red. It's red or green.
I thought it was
not going.
I thought it was yellow for some reason.
Maybe it is.
Well, there is. I think it's probably red, green, and yellow, but kind of like the stop thing. But even if you're yellow. In Guangzhou, in certain apartment buildings, you can't even go into your apartment building. You have to quarantine completely outside of that. So
there is. I'm sorry, you're right. There is a yellow.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, yellow card, kind of like the band, which believe it or not, I actually really like. Yeah, cat's out of the bag on that one, I guess. No unsaying that.
Right.
But if you get yellow carded, like you can't go back into your apartment building, which means if you have nowhere else to go, you got to sleep on the streets. You got to set up a tent, and not to mention no public transportation.
Nope.
So
you can't go to restaurants. You can't go into cafes or
hotel.
Or stores. So you can't go to a hotel.
Yeah. So even if you could, like even if you had money, you can just go to a hotel. Like, well, too bad you're not allowed to because you have
the yellow.
Yeah. So now like there's a bunch of homeless people in Guangzhou that aren't happy about it. So Guangzhou obviously erupted in protests, quarantine camps, like the fences and the walls on quarantine camps are starting to get torn down. I mean, like the videos have gone viral. Like it's not hard to find a video of Chinese COVID protests.
No, because it's not just in Guangzhou. It's not just which is in the south near Hong Kong. It's not just in Urumqi in the far west, the capital of that region. It's in Chengdu, in Dali, in Chongqing, Xi'an, Wuhan, Nanjing, Shanghai, and Beijing. Right, so it looks like it is spreading to all the major places. Some of these cases they're chanting for them to lift the ban. That's it. They just want the zero COVID policy relaxed or removed. In parts of Shanghai, they're chanting for Xi Jinping to be removed from office.
Yeah. And even, I think it's even gone as far, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's gone as far as to the complete removal of the CCP, right?
Yeah, there are the same people in Shanghai at the on the university campuses and other places are also chanting at the same time as they want to be rid of Xi Jinping. They want to be rid of all trappings of the Chinese Communist Party as well. So that's probably a very small group.
Yeah.
At least it's willing to say it out loud. But the fact that it's happening in Beijing, where theoretically the Chinese Communist Party should be strongest, you'd think that it's probably a sentiment that is felt a lot of places.
Yeah, it's felt pretty severely. I mean, so there are a lot of people that are talking about like, okay, because I think I heard someone on CNBC talk about how uninvestable China is, and I actually agreed. And then there was a whole panel discussion on why China is uninvestable, and then of course the counter argument why China is uninvestable. And to me, I was just like, I don't see anything backing the other camp. And then, of course, with stuff like this happening, and then, of course, the iPhone warehouse, the iPhone production protest, that's another thing that supports the China is uninvestable camp.
Oh, yeah. Right? Because you're seeing that, so their manufacturing hub in Zhengzhou, China, they're now saying it's going to produce 6 million fewer iPhones this year than they had initially planned. So that's a problem. So if you were looking for your iPhone 14 Max and Pro or whatever those versions are, they won't be there. The next thing is that there was apparently thousands of employees quit the factory. So they were told essentially by the factory they would take, if they quit, they'd be given 2 months pay. Apparently thousands took the 2 months and left. So there's now a huge number of vacant positions. Also, the factories are shut down, and also the cities are locked down. So that's a very serious. If I was going to be investing in China, I'd go, wow, I wouldn't,
it's crazy
because I can't get my money out afterwards. But if I'm sitting looking, I'd be like,
you're definitely going to run into a liquidity crunch there. Yeah, but I think to me, it wouldn't surprise me if their GDP numbers, which I don't know if I have their Q3 GDP numbers coming. I have no idea, but if Q4 GDP comes, I mean, it has to have by now, but either way, it doesn't matter. It still wouldn't surprise me if Q4 GDP, China has a plus, has a positive handle, just because I feel like that's how much they fudge their numbers.
Oh yeah, no, their numbers I would say are not particularly accurate.
Yeah, and additionally, remember that chart I sent you today with the WCI, the Shanghai to Los Angeles container freight benchmark?
Yeah.
Remember earlier this year how expensive it was? I mean, we're talking about in January.
It was like 12,000, wasn't it? It was something obscene.
It was like 12,000.
It was over 12,000. Now it's that, and that was that was kind of the peak this time last year. And then now it's down at
the beginning of the year, it was over 10,000. It was well over 10. It was almost about 11,000.
Yeah, it started the year over 10,000, and it's dropped like FTX's value.
like FTX, yeah.
Yeah, it's down at 2,000 again, which is kind of where it was hovering, from 2011 through 2019.
Drop, yeah.
For the better part of the decade prior. So
can you imagine if you're short of those? If there were freight futures, if you're short of those, wow, good on you.
Well, the next part, I mean, if you really think about it. One, we know there's less stuff being shipped from China now because their factories are shut down.
They're making less stuff.
They're making less stuff. Their factories are shut down. And it's affecting oil. If you look at it, you'll see oil futures are at 2022 lows because China's not consuming.
I think that's a huge catalyst. And that's also a huge catalyst as to why Saudi Arabia is cutting.
Which is the next one is, okay.
Yes.
There's not... Yeah, oil's looking at a demand crisis, a demand crunch.
Yeah, and a pretty drastic one, but it's so weird because it's still because we have a ton of demand here in the States, even with the diesel shortage going on, which, more to come on that. But, we're starting to see the ripples of how this is going to play out in the global economy. And this has been happening for a long time in China, right? With the crackdowns last year on just how business is being done. And then, of course, now crackdowns on how your life is being lived.
Oh, yeah.
So I think... It's really, the ripples are starting to happen,
and people are pushing back.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, it's kind of helping. I think it's going to kind of help with inflation in the short term, but it's like what you said, right?
Yeah, the problem is, so on the one hand, the benefit is China's not going to be spending money buying raw materials, so that's going to drive down.
Yeah, demand is
raw materials.
We also have to remember, what is China? They're production.
They produce a lot of goods.
Production economy.
And one of the ways you ease inflation is that you produce more goods,
more stuff.
So when there's
so it's kind of like the demand, because the demand crush I think is going to really hit. I think it's going to influence inflation first, and then from there it's going to be the stuff we're used to having all the time. It's not coming out as often and as fast, So at the end, gonna, I think, really have a non-effect on inflation.
It's
if we're lucky, But we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
No, it's.
Meanwhile,
I mean,
the protests in China, as violent as they were far more violent than what. Remember those Black Friday videos we used to always see?
Oh yeah,
it's kind of like that.
I hate to say this because I know it's just it says awful things about me as a person, but I enjoyed watching the people just just crushing into a Walmart and just like it's like, oh, they're like all there for like the one for like the 5 like $30 TVs. There's like the doorbusters, and it's just like it's like, and as a retail person you hate that. Like you're in there just like, I hate myself, I hate this job, I don't want to do this. Yes. And every now and again someone gets trampled. So you're
it's
like,
a lot of assault and battery going on there, huh? Did you get that one?
Yeah, I did. That was a good.
Thank you. I've been subtly dropping them in. I don't know what I'm at right now. I think I'm at 3 or 4.
It's at least 3.
So whatever I referenced so far, I did the thing that should not be battery.
Harvester of Sorrow.
I don't remember. Harvester of Sorrow.
Oh wow, sorry.
Yeah. I need to come up with more. I need to drop more in there. But whatever. Yeah. So that's
what I'm hoping I can drop in at the very end.
Okay, fair enough.
But so that's I mean, and if you want to know, like, is China shut down? Is that because there's a decrease in demand, at least in the U.S. or globally? And the answer to that is no. Thank you for asking. Thank you for playing. Yeah. Clearly, you didn't pay attention to Thanksgiving, Black Friday, the weekend, of the fact that we're recording this on Cyber Monday. But for those of you wondering,
even on Black Friday, which a lot of online stores had Black Friday stuff online, right?
We know that $9.12 billion was spent online on Black Friday.
Yeah,
which on Thanksgiving there were 5-something billion in online shopping. Saturday and Sunday combined was $9.5 billion. And then Cyber Monday today, the estimate is it's going to be about $11.2 billion spent. So between the three, that's really that's $35 billion between Thursday and the end of business Monday.
Well, and let's compare that to how much is normally spent on just retail in general on a normal day.
Online, $2 to $3 billion.
Yeah. So we're talking about what would that be, like a 5-fold, almost round up 5-fold increase?
At least 2.
The average.
Yeah, it's more than 200%. It's 227% increase of online shopping over those days, averaged out over those days.
Yeah, so that's
34 billion where you'd expect to see 15 billion.
Which is crazy because you're looking at all this data, you're looking at credit card debt, and you're looking at consumer sentiment, which has improved drastically, but is still relatively weak. And you're just like, okay, these numbers don't support that data at all.
No,
you know what I mean?
No. So, and if you think consumer sentiment is bad, all I'm going to say is it's going to get worse.
Yeah, it's going to be there's going to be a whiplash probably, And it's kind of like what you said. I think you said something about was the buy now pay laters
that's the crazy thing is buy now pay later is up 78% from the week before. Right, so the week before Thanksgiving you have a baseline, and buy now pay later is up 78% in this huge increase in shopping, which just says that a huge amount of that 34 billion is being done as buy now pay later, which in an increasing interest environment just says that people don't have the money but are spending it, which is a credit card by a different name.
Yeah. Well, I think it's going to be weird because one of the things that we had to think about with all this buy now pay later stuff, which if there's no interest involved in buy now pay later, so if you bought a new TV stand for $100 and the store, Best Buy or whatever, says you can pay $25 a month for the next 4 months interest free. Why wouldn't you do that?
Absolutely.
Right? I would. But I think the bigger issue becomes if you bought a $4,000 TV, if those exist, I don't even know. But if you bought a $4,000 TV and they're all right, $1,000 down, $20 a month for the next however many months with this much interest. It's okay, now you're starting to further expand the bubble that is the credit card bubble. I think,
which is ugly. I mean, we know it's ugly. You see the amount of credit card spending versus personal savings, and boy, I've never seen two things go opposite directions like that. Fast.
It's literally more creeping death.
Except it's not even creeping. This is starting to sprint.
I know. Well, it's creeping because it's a Metallica song. Okay.
Oh, I know.
Sad but true. Oh wow, there's two right there. Oh my gosh, but it is sad but true. It's one of those things where I feel like we're getting so much closer to the the bottom falling out. And I'm not trying to be a doomsday caller here, but
I am a little bit. But
yeah, but it's you look at all these signs, like one with the railroad strikes that could potentially happen, which I think we're going to talk about here in a little bit. A lot of this buy now, pay later stuff. So a lot of people kicking the can down the road. The debt ceiling from the federal government, it's looking a lot like credit card debt, and like by U.S. consumers. It looks almost exactly. If anything, it looks worse. And then of course China, like the anti-establishment, the anarchy that's happening in China. I mean, it's literally, I think we're really pushing so much closer to, I think, a bottom falling out. Is it going to be a shallow falling out or a steep falling out? I don't know. I don't want to be the judge or jury.
I think it's going to be first one, then the other. To be fair, like that's my personal position on it, at least.
So you think it's going to be like, okay, the bottom is falling out, and then all of a sudden, like more and more people catch on that the bottom is falling out, and then the animal spirits take over, and then it's jumping the fire.
I do. I think it's that. I think it's legitimately it's going to ride the lightning.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
It's gonna start small, and then
I was gonna say it's gonna be landminers taking my site.
Hey.
That kind of stuff. Yeah.
But here's the real thing. Like, if we think the Chinese shutdown, lockdowns, protests, 6 million iPhone shortage, fewer than or $1 billion a week is an easy way to put it. As when the Foxconn factory was shut down, Apple was estimating it was $1 billion a week that was costing them in lost output. That is nothing compared to what would happen if there was a railroad strike in the United States.
Yeah, so I mean, there was the railroad strike, apparently it was like, 'cause we talked about this, I think, a little bit last week.
So in September, we thought there were negotiations between the unions and the railroad companies that were coming to a head, and there was this idea that there was going to be a strike. Now, what happened was the Biden administration got involved, and they got a version that they thought would work, and so they both the union and the union delegates and then the railroad companies agreed to it, and it included a few things. So it included a 24% salary increase that would be backdated till 2020.
Yeah, because I knew there was a salary increase that they wanted, but didn't the union want more?
Well,
so they wanted more, right?
They obviously all wanted more, but this is what they agreed to. Now, what happens is when the unions come up with an agreement that they think will work, they then have to turn around and get the union members to vote on whether or not they accept it. Right, so that's the thing. So while the union negotiates here, it then turns around to its members and it goes, "Do you accept this?"
Oh, and then the actual members said no,
and it looks like so.
Wow. Okay.
So 4 of the 12 unions voted no. So there's 12 railroad unions in the United States. 4 of them voted no. One of them, I've forgotten which one it is, but they represent the unions that have voted no represent about 50% of the 120,000 rail workers in the U.S.
How many? Whoa! How many?
100. I think it's.
I don't know if I heard you correctly.
It's 100 and I want to say it's 120. It might be 119,000, but it's.
That's. I mean, either way, okay, whatever. You're off by 1,000. That's still a lot, dude. That's a ton of workers.
Okay,
man.
There's approximately 115,000 rail workers. But here's the big thing. So there's the 12 unions which voted individually. 4 of those unions refused. That's about 60,000 of those railroad workers. But here's the next thing. If one of them goes on strike, it's almost certain that the other 11 will go on strike too. So there's a solidarity between these guys. Right now, the deadline's December 9th, right?
Yeah.
So if there isn't an agreement by December 9th, there will be there will be calls for general strike that would probably hit at the end of the year.
Yeah.
The assumption of what a stoppage of railroad service would cost the U.S. economy $2 billion a day, right?
Yeah.
So if Apple is $1 billion a week with a factory closed, this is $2 billion a day, and that's just in what you can easily count and calculate. The next is what happens to everyone that's depending on the freight coming in from those on rail.
Yeah.
When your Teamsters then have to start long haul driving instead of short haul driving or medium haul driving because the trains are doing most of the work during a shortage of diesel. What could possibly go wrong? And as I look at this, like you're seeing that like the unions are asking for things like they want 4 sick days, paid sick days in a year, and they're not being offered any. And they don't want to negotiate over. They're saying we want 4 sick days a year.
4 sick days a year? 4
paid sick days.
Wow.
And the rail companies are saying no.
Wow. I mean, I got to side with the workers on this one.
Yeah. Now, There is a
who's working on this thing? Do you know? Like, is it, because I know like there was supposed to be a strike in October. It didn't happen.
They don't
really know how it didn't happen.
What happened is in September, by the end of September, they got to an agreement that they thought would pass. They then
they turned back to the workers, and then the workers were like no, and then all
the
of a
workers
sudden,
refused.
Odds of a strike went up.
If you look, you're seeing that if you want to know why the cost of trucking has gone up right now, some of the major tech companies in the U.S. have started to reroute their shipping from rail to trucks. They're changing the way they're moving product around because they see this
Just
coming.
To get away. Yeah.
They now think it's going to happen.
Yeah, but it's not like, I mean, even going to trucks, that's not cheap. That's a pretty expensive alternative.
And inefficient, very inefficient. Mm-hmm. So that's $2 billion if we're just moving freight, or just in lost revenues from freight, right? So economic loss and damage. Yeah. Let's say nothing of the 7 million people it's estimated move on Amtrak or other trains every day to commute in like the Northeast corridor.
Oh, geez, yeah.
They won't be going anywhere.
Yeah, well, they primarily commute via train. I mean,
absolutely.
Like when I did my internship out there, that's what it was like. You know, I didn't drive anywhere.
And the guess is that's 7 million a day. Right. So now 7 million people a day aren't able to commute into work as easily.
Gosh.
So that's a problem. So now the question is, and so the great thing is there are pros and cons to this. There are powers that exist within the federal government that allow the government to pass a law, to pass legislation
that makes
to adopt the current agreement between railroaders and operators without any modification or derate. So they can essentially say, if Congress gets its act together here in its lame duck and passes legislation, they can compel the unions to accept the New Deal.
Gotcha.
And say, look,
so
you have to accept this. You can't go on strike.
Yeah, so I did see, and first of all, like, for people wondering like what's happened in the global supply chain, it has, like, the supply chain pressure has gotten better. Like, so
far.
But I don't know if that's 75 days. So far. So yeah, exactly. So we'll still need to see what happens. But like, if you look at the global supply chain pressure index, like, there was that spike, I think, earlier in the year. I forget when exactly it happened, but I think it was probably like in February or something like that. It's gotten better. Like, I don't necessarily know if it's all thanks to 75 basis points or QT or whatever. Like, whatever it is, it's gotten better. But this is one of those things where it's like, you're not really helping. And I did see a headline today where it was like, okay, Joe Biden has called for someone to meet with somebody to get to avoid this railroad strike, because that obviously, if they did strike, that would be absolutely catastrophic. But it really reminded me of that scene in Life of Brian by Monty Python. Mm-hmm. The whole we need to stop
crucify Brian.
Yeah, they're gonna crucify Brian. It's finally happening. Something is happening. It's like, terrific. This calls for an immediate discussion.
Yeah, we're having an immediate discussion to decide what the proper route forward is.
Yes.
That's not what John Cleese sounds like at all. But
yeah, but I mean, it reminded me of that. But hopefully they do get something done, because I think one of the big things that's happening on soil in the U.S. is like, we need to avert this as whatever we got to do. We got to try to avert this. I mean, obviously, in a way that's efficient and profitable for both parties involved.
Yeah.
But a strike is, at the end of the day, probably much more harmful than,
4 paid sick days. I'd agree with you.
Than 6 paid sick, whatever.
No, the real problem is that the real question. So Nancy Pelosi has said she will have that she will call the House to vote on the issue this week. Chuck Schumer hasn't said what they'll do in the Senate. The real issue is going to be who's going to vote yes for this, because if you're if you're a Democrat from a pro-union area, you can't vote yes for this.
Yeah.
Politically, you can't vote. Unless it's written very specifically. Negotiations will continue. This is the minimum that will be accepted, and they'll continue to work on the next ones. But the problem is if the government decides that it's not going to allow a general strike to occur, a lot of that collective bargaining power of the union goes away. So that leaves you as a union guy, you have a few options. And one of the big ones is if you're the union's at that point, if you can't strike, you might have a lot of people quit. Which puts you in the same problem as if they'd struck, except you lose the experience. So it's
exactly. Well, and seriously, how many people are applying for railroad working jobs? I can almost guarantee it's not 126,000 or 119 or 115,000 or whatever.
It's not 115,000. No, so there's not enough to replace.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that there are people applying for those jobs, and they are great jobs, and they pay, I'm sure, pretty well, but the line for the exit door is much bigger.
When there's more people trying to get out than trying to get in, you got a problem.
Yeah,
whether it's markets, a job,
it's
anything.
The whole "for whom the bell tolls" narrative. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know, one loss is I forget what the song is. It's about like it's like a because we were all. I'm not trying to get philosophical, and I feel bad, but I made the analogy.
Definitely makes you wonder for whom the bell tolls. But
it does. I made the analogy, so I'm just like, you know, but the song is about like, you know, because we're all part of man. It's the Ernest Hemingway thing. It's like because we're all part of mankind. Any person's death is a loss to all of us, or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's that situation with the railroads. You know, any person's loss is kind of a loss for all of us. If we hurt in a one manner or another, yeah,
exactly. It's not incorrect, but that's I don't know. That's what we're looking forward to. That's what we have looking forward to going into this second week of December. Is to see whether or not what markets will do. And I have to imagine, like, I mean, I saw a pretty strong market sell-off today, as I recall.
I mean, it wasn't strong. I mean,
it accelerated towards the end of the day.
It did. Which I think it was just more of like the shorts kind of taking over. Gaining more momentum at the end of the day, but you know, I think I don't know. I don't necessarily think it was driven by the bankruptcy of what's that one company of BlockFi, but I did chuckle at that. I have to admit, I did. No,
BlockFi. That was a nice little. You're still here. It's for me. It was one of those like, oh, you're still here.
Oh, I forgot about you. I was like, oh, I forgotten about you. You know, like
very much. Forgot you were here.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's like the scene in Tropic Thunder. It's like, you know, you're talking to me this whole time. You know, like I thought you had faded to black.
Yeah, no, it's
but yeah,
I don't know. I do not have any optimistic views. Looking forward, the promise I made last week is still true. By the time you hear this, there should be, or at least by this weekend, I should have as much of the new logos updated.
Nice.
It's a really bad transition, but it is true. I have not finished uploading all of them yet. It's going to take me a long time to actually sit down with them and plug them onto the merchandise, onto shirts as we want them on the shirts, onto hoodies as we want them on hoodies. Right. So that it takes me time to actually layer them so that the product can be made. But by this weekend, hopefully that should be done. So you can get your order and get them hopefully onto a truck, onto and off of a train before there may or may not be a strike involving them. But if you want to know where to find those, track us down at drunkenomics.myspreadshop.com, where you can find the merch. You can find links to that. I want to bet, I think we have links to that on all of our social media, which is at Drunkenomical, DRUNKENOMICAL.
Oh yeah, we totally forgot to mention that.
Facebook, Twitter,
and Instagram,
Insta, where you can also find the invitation to the Discord, where I'll pin and drop a merch thing there, just so you guys can see, and I'll show off some of the fun new logos there at some point this week. And that's that. But this is everything we normally do. If you don't want to buy merch.
Well, if you don't want to buy merch, I mean, you can always go to put a tip in the tip jar. You know, that's at Patreon. That's patreon.com/drunkenomics, DRUNKENOMICS. That's where you can. I'm trying to think of this analogy. I don't know how to put this.
Well, here's the easiest way to say it. You can help us keep whiskey in the jar, and then
there we go. That's what it is. Yes, thank you for that.
With frozen ice, maybe some lemon peel and vermouth if we're really feeling fancy.
Yeah, so we can finally sow the seeds we take, and that's a lyric in the song "Bleeding Me," which is my favorite Metallica song. I don't know, whatever. It's my favorite Metallica song.
All right, so for those of you wondering, yes, we've been deliberately making Metallica references the entire episode. So if you go back through and you can successfully count how many references we made, go ahead and find us on the same social media in the Discord. Tell us how many you think we made. We'll count so we know.
I think I know the number. I think I do, but I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it.
Well, when you edit, you'll know. But between that and
as you're feeling and killing, you know, just kind of keep tracking that. And of course, you know, as you feel and kill throughout the rest of the week, please continue to also play chess, not checkers. Don't brag, just say. But most importantly, do that one thing where you, what's it called?
As the seasons change, just stay drunkenomical, guys.
Stay drunkenomical. Cheers and rock on.
Cheers.